Okay.
Welcome to Turnpike Takes, where we talk Jersey basketball all season long. Though this week of college basketball just wrapped up, all the teams around Jersey played their first few games. We're going to hop straight into it here, reviewing it this week and looking a little bit ahead in the next week. Dylan, start us off with how Rutgers did this week.
So Rutgers actually only played one game this week. It was a pretty good win against Ryder. They destroyed them like by 38 points or 28 points. This game was kind of like just a new new game. Like see how the chemistry was, like how do they play with each other? Who is our guy? And seems like Tariq Francis, transfer guard from NJIT, is a junior. He seemed to be the guy on Wednesday night. He scored 20 points on 6 of 10 shooting, 4 of 6 from three. Looked pretty confident out there. Kind of the talking heads of Rutgers are saying, "Oh, he's too undersized. He can't shoot. He's inefficient." He proved them wrong. At least on Wednesday, he was our best player. Other headlines: Dylan Grant, sophomore forward, looking to take the big leap from his freshman season. Played really well, scoring 17 points on efficient shooting. Michael Davis, junior guard, who he's gonna be that guy now. He's been like a 3 to 4 points per game average guy a couple of years, but nice. Steve Pikel is looking for him to take the step up. He scored 15 points, but showed great development on his 3-point shot, and it seems like he will be a factor going into our season. Freshman Dennis Valadao did shoot 12 attempts, the most on the team, only made one. He seemed to be very confident on the floor, took his shots when he had them, wasn't scared to shoot. I take that as a good sign. He's it's first game at the collegiate level. I think that he will settle into this level of play, and I think that his confidence will go far. And then other notable things to mention, Bai Fall, transfer center, who I was thinking was going to be a good player off the bench, only played 4 minutes, seemed to be a little lost out there when he was in the on the floor. We'll see if his minutes get bumped up a little bit. And then Darren Buchanan Jr., transfer forward from George Washington, played great off the bench, scoring 11 points. Free throw shooting is an issue for the entire team. He was 2 for 7 individually, 21 of 33 as a team. That needs to be worked on. But I liked his aggressiveness in attacking the rims. Uses his size really well, and that'll be something that's going to be necessary for Big Ten play and better opponents. So yeah, good week for Rutgers. They tip off tomorrow at 6:30 against Maine, an 0-2 opponent. Should be another good win to get the season out to 2-0.
All right, looking now at Seton Hall. Pirates, they started off their season with a jersey on jersey matchup, matching up against St. Peter's. They would get away with the win, 77-50. Um, Throughout most of the game, Seton Hall did dominate. But statistically, looking at the box score, the guys that they were expecting to play well didn't really play too well. The transfer Bud Clark, Adam Clark, highly anticipated, went viral over the summer. Only had 8 points with 2 assists in this matchup, but three guys went in double digits. First, the starting senior forward for Seton Hall, Stephon Payne, came in with 11 points, 3 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. The freshman Najai Hines off the bench came with 12 points and 9 rebounds and a whopping 6 blocks on an efficient 4 for 5 shooting. And the junior guard Tawan Simpkins came in with 10 points off the bench. In their next game, they did play Wagner, another win, but a little bit shaky. They did start down at the end of the half, 31-30, but they did get away with the win, 68-61. Um, in this one, Bud Clark stepped up much more, 11 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, and a block. And not that efficient shooting, only 3 for 9 and 0 for 1 from the 3 point line, but I'm sure he'll get that up over the season. Elijah Fisher, the senior guard, got away with 21 points in this game. Um, 6 rebounds, 8 for 14 shooting, over 50%, and only 25% from three. Off the bench, the guard Tawan Simpkins, another monster game, 15 points, 4 rebounds. Najai Hines did not play as well in this one, only 2 points, but did have a block in this game. Um, yeah, Seton Hall started off 2-0, but a shaky win against Wagner and a win against St. Peter's doesn't say too much for them. Looking ahead, they do have Fairfield and Monmouth, two pretty easy wins, and then New Haven, another easy win before the real tests in NC State. So if they can start off 5-0, going into NC State with some real strong wins, I think they can play well. Um, following up. Next team hopping into the Princeton Tigers. They had a lot of drama going on um, in the offseason, and it didn't translate well to the court as they went to face the Akron Zips in Akron, facing a 69 to 104 loss, a huge loss to the Zips. The star in this one is a guy that I was very high on in the season. I mentioned it in an earlier episode. Jackson Hickey, 15 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 50% from the line. Dalen Davis, 11 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. It was really spread out all over the board for the Tigers in this one. Not too much effect as they faced a big loss. Looking ahead for the Tigers, they do have Bucknell tomorrow, John Jay College, I assume a lower division college, on Thursday, and then they walk straight in to Allen Fieldhouse to go face the Kansas Jayhawks, a loss that we will assume. Um, yeah, handing it back over to you, Dylan, to go over St. Peter's.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, St. Peter's had a pretty resounding loss to Seton Hall on their opening night on Monday night. I mean, it was to be expected. St. Peter's was kind of picked to finish low in their NEC conference, which in itself is not high level. To that game, not much scoring happened. TJ Robinson, freshman guard, did have a pretty good first collegiate game. He scored 11 off the bench and 3 of 9 shooting. He's averaging 14 and a half on the year so far through 2 games. That's a pleasant surprise for a team that is looking for a guy to step up. But speaking of guys stepping up in their second game against FTU, Brent Bland, senior guard, has been with the program for all 4 years. I mean, had an amazing game. 27 points, 7 of 14 from the field. He really led his team to a win. I mean, they won by 10 points. He was guy on the floor. He was primary ball handler. He was shooting with confidence. I mean, that's what you want to see out of St. Peter's. He showed up big time. They got a win over a fellow New Jersey rival, and that's a good sign going the rest of the season because as a low major program, you don't need like an amazing roster to win all these games. You need that one guy who will you will go to every game. He'll get you those wins. And knowing that St. Peter's has his guy now in Brent Bland, I'm really happy to see that. I'm looking forward to seeing how they play throughout the season. They have a little break now. They're going to take on VCU, another former March Madness team from last year. So that'll be a challenging game for them. That's going to be on the 12th at 7 o'clock. And I mean, on hindsight, that's on paper that's a loss, but it'll be good to see if Bland can take this confidence into VCU and see how much they can keep up with them. Because obviously you're not going to be beating these teams early on in the season, but if you can compete with them, that's going to be a good sign. Moving on, there is Ryder. Ryder opened up for 2 straight losses to start their season. Two Power Four teams in Virginia and Rutgers, and yeah, that was to be expected. You know, they were never going to win these games, but they just could not compete. They were inefficient from the field, and really they can't shoot the ball, frankly. And against Rutgers, they were 10% from three on 2 of 20, and they at one point they went 37 minutes without making one three-pointer. And if you're going to shoot 20 attempts as a mid-major, you know, mid-majors need these, like, they rely on three-pointers to win games. And if Ryder can't shoot it, that's not a good sign. I mean, same story against Virginia. Virginia, I mean, obviously a Power 4 team, but they just didn't stand a chance. They shot 3 of 12 from 3 at 25%. And besides Flash Burton that game, who was a 17 points as their leading guard, there wasn't really much scoring going on that game. And that was really similar in the Rutgers game where Flash Burton actually had an off game and scored, I think, believe under 10 points. And they didn't really have that guy to lean on. Rutgers kind of dominated on both sides of the ball, and they just didn't have a consistent scoring option. So I don't think Ryder's going to be too good this year because they don't have that guy like Brett Bland to rely on. But we'll see how they hopefully they get another win. They're playing a Division Two opponent in Eastern University on the 15th, and maybe they get their season back on track. But they play Texas and Houston back to back, so we'll see about that. And then Monmouth, actually a pleasant surprise for this season so far. They opened up against Caldwell, Division Two opponent, which obviously easy win, and they played well, just dominant victory. And then they took on La Salle away at La Salle's home arena, and La Salle they were a March Madness team last year, and they played really well in their opening round. Although they lost, they played very well, and they had expectations going into this year. And Monmouth did not shy away. They at halftime they were down 38-35. They were in this game led by Jason Rivera Torres, transfer guard from San Francisco. and he played great. He scored 20. He's averaging 16 and a half this year, and he kind of led this team to a pretty competitive game. This is kind of contrasted to their first game. I mean, where Jack Collins played really well, who he's picked to be preseason second team in the CAA. He had an off game against LaSalle, but this Monmouth team is pretty good, and they can make some surprises this year because they have depth, they have players that can take over a game, and they're great from 1 through 5. They're great defending, and if they can compete with LaSalle, I think they could compete with anyone in the CAA, and that's a good sign going into their season. And then so now they have Seton Hall on the 13th, which yeah, on paper it doesn't look winnable, but Seton Hall looked really shaky against Wagner, so never know what can happen. And then they take on Syracuse, and Syracuse obviously has been looking really good with Kai and Anthony as well leading the charge over there. But again, these are all winnable games. You know, they're not the top of the top Power Five teams, and I'm looking to see what Monmouth can do this season.
Moving on, we're going over the Fairleigh Dickinson going to the Knights. Their first game was against Iowa State, an expected loss. Milan Masilovic popped off with almost 30 points for the Cyclones. But looking at the Knights, they did have a decent game. David Jevtich and Eric Parnell, they're two players in double digits with 14 and 13. Jevtich, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. And then Parnell with only 1 rebound and a steal. Tayshaw Jackson, for senior forward, did only have 9 points, but did have 7 rebounds, 2 steals. His impact win for the Cyclones. In their next game, they would face another loss in the jersey-on-jersey matchup. As mentioned before, St. Peter's or Fairleigh Dickinson 93-83 for the Peacocks. But Tayshaw Jackson did pick it up much better in this game. 14 points, 13 rebounds, 12 of them defensive, 4 assists and a steal, 60% shooting on the day. David Jevtich, another great game, 14 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists and a steal. Not much, not very efficient, 5 for 12, 41%. And then Eric Parnell, 12 points, 3 assists, 12 points, 3 rebounds, and assist, 50% from the field. Off the bench, Arthur Cox, in the St. Peter's game, 12 points, 4 rebounds, and assists, shooting 50%. Pretty good game for them. Looking ahead for the Knights, they do face Texas at Texas. An expected loss there, not much to talk about. But then they face NJIT at NJIT, the next team that we're going to talk about. NJIT started off their season very well to a big surprise. As we know, they were expected to be at the very bottom of their conference going into this season. They faced Fordham on the road, and they came in and got a win. David Bolden, the freshman guard for the Highlanders, came in with 18 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. On 53% shooting to get Highlanders a win. Jordan Rogers as well, 11 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. Great game from him. And then off the bench, Rocco Awad, a guy that was mentioned for us to talk about. 12 points, 2 rebounds, and assist on 80% shooting as the Highlanders got a 72-61 win over Fordham. And then they walked into the next game to face Fairfield at home. Took a big loss there. David Bolden had another good game. 12 points, 6 rebounds, 4 steals, only on 40%. Then after that, not much else happened for the Highlanders as they took a 74-53 loss. Looking ahead for the Highlanders, they have Loyola Maryland to play. Should be a pretty even matchup there. But then, as I mentioned earlier, they have their jersey-on-jersey matchup. Fairleigh Dickinson should be an interesting one there, one that will definitely be covered here on Turnpike Takes.
Yeah, so like, what are your thoughts on these New Jersey teams? You know, it's actually for me, it's like a kind of a pleasant surprise on how they've been playing and this early in the season. So
I have some good expectations for some of these teams. I feel like Rutgers, especially, is the one team that I want to say can definitely go somewhere. If anybody in Jersey is going to make it to March and make it to a conference tournament, it's going to be Rutgers. Just
yeah,
seeing how
quote
they're
by
playing well, seeing how Tariq Francis is playing. Go ahead.
yeah, like Coach Pico even said, like, I mean, obviously coaches are they're not gonna like downplay their team, but he's like, if all goes well injury wise, team stays healthy, they'll 1,000% surprise people in the Big Ten. And I honestly see that as you're saying, like Tariq Francis and like the players, it's a deep roster. They played, I believe, like 13 people or and like 11 people played 10 plus minutes against Ryder, and that's like pretty deep roster. And if Pico can trust those 11 guys to play, you're not going to be able to like if you're not going to have to rely on just one or two players like we did last year with Bailey and Harper. Be interesting to see. And yeah, so what are your thoughts on Princeton? Obviously, like, awful loss to Akron.
Um, Personally, if it was not for um the sudden departure of Caden Pierce, I would say that I see Princeton going far in the Ivy. But because they lost such a monumental player, and now that they're bringing it all on one guy, Jackson Hickey, who I think is great. I think Jackson Hickey is a great player, but I don't think that he's going to do much in the Ivy, having teams like Harvard and Yale to play multiple times a year. I don't see this Princeton team going very far. But um, with that being said, I do see a future with this team. They have a bunch of freshmen and sophomores. As I'm looking, they don't have a single senior on this roster. They have all juniors and sophomores with a few freshmen scattered here and there. So if this team doesn't play abysmal, if they don't get shut out in every game, they win a few games they're not supposed to win. They play hard in every game. They come back next year. I see this Princeton team being very impactful in the Ivy. And then the
You
other
know,
team that I do want to talk about. Go ahead.
I'm with you on that one. Honestly, I mean, people forget like you see a MAC team like Akron. Akron was the team to come out of the MAC last year and make it to March, right? And obviously, it's the first game of the season. You can't really like you can't define one team based on the first game. And as you said, a team full of freshmen are not going to play well in the beginning. And like string together a few wins down the line, it's just the Ivy League. Anything can happen. None of the teams are top of the top level where it's like, all right, this is already slated as a loss. So as much as Princeton fans, Princeton supporters are kind of down on their team right now, as after kind of recently been up for a few years, don't think the season's over. Like it's game one, it's game two, whatever. Like let's get back on track. We have a good head coach who's been with the team for a while, so I do like this team.
Yeah, Mitch. And then the final team that I do want to talk about, the other um big table head in New Jersey, Seton Hall. Um I really don't know what to expect out of Seton Hall. I mean, obviously they've been at the bottom of the Big East for a long time. And it's been a while since they've seen winning, but I think that they have the pieces to bring them somewhere in the Big East. I think Bud Clark, I will continue to think that he was going to be a major piece down the stretch. He's getting used to having to play. He's going to get used to playing upper level competition coming from Merrimack, playing in the MAAC, not really playing much, but if Najai Hines can bring out more games like he did in the first game, if Stephon Payne can keep playing well, if Elijah Fisher can keep playing well, I think that Seton Hall could be competitive. But they are playing in the Big East. They are playing in a Big East now where UConn is still UConn. Dan Hurley is still one of, if not the best coach in the game. Um, Villanova is on a comeback with Kevin Willard and them coaching. So I think that Seton Hall can definitely be sleeper competitive. They can definitely um, have an impact here and there. Like again, Creighton was a team that went far in March Madness last year. They have to deal with Georgetown, who has Malik Mack. Providence, they have a bunch of teams to play. St. John's, can't forget about St. John's. Like the Big East is stacked this year. So I don't think Seton Hall is going to be that team to make it out. I don't think Seton Hall is going to be a team that is even going to make too much noise. But I think that Seton can definitely end out with a above 500 record. They can definitely be in the Big East tournament at the end, playing in the Garden, playing to win some games. I think that Seton Hall can be a competitive team, but not the team.
I'm with you on that. I mean, like Adam Clark, Bud Clark, saying like he's only averaging 9.5 right now, and he's like kind of looking like not the player that everyone was going after in the quarter. But again, he's not gonna shoot 3 for 9. He's not gonna miss these 5 or 10 from the line against Wagner. That's not gonna happen. I think there's some like jitters going into the season. He's never played He's been playing at Merrimack. Yes, a complete different level. He's always been the underdog. Like this is my game to show out and try to earn a new team. Earn that Power Five roster spot. And now he's there, right? And it's been the first two games, and he's scored 11 and 8, and he's kind of only shot the ball 14 times total. And once the season gets on, he practices more, he plays better opponents. He's gonna settle into his role on this team, and his role on the team is the primary ball handler, is the primary option. And I think that you can't go 5 or 10 from the free throw line and have any confidence, Like his confidence gonna come. It's gonna take some time, but I'm telling you, the Seton Hall team is not gonna be a walk in the park. I believe they're gonna be below 500. I stand on that, but I don't think they're gonna be like below 500 team that gets blown out every day. They will go. They will compete in every game, and I think it's gonna be similar to Rutgers. I don't think Rutgers will be a March Madness team as a fan even, but I think they'll compete. They won't like they'll be a surprise in many games, and I'm interested to see how it is because New Jersey basketball is better when Seton Hall and Rutgers are in the tournament. So yeah, that's a good recap. I mean, we have a fresh week with a few New Jersey on New Jersey matchups coming up this week. We'll headline them in our following episode. Thank you for listening to Turnpike Takes, and we'll see you next week.